Hello, everybody. My name is Edgar. I'm the Urban Ag Outreach Manager here at City Sprouts. And today we're going to be talking about harvesting. We're going to be looking at a couple different crops. First, we're going to start with kale, as you can see right in front of me. We're also going to be looking at harvesting some Asian greens, and we're going to be harvesting some carrots. So the first thing we want to talk about here is the kale. As you can see, this kale has been growing for quite some time. We planted this early in the spring, and we've been harvesting ever since. As you can see, this plant is very, very hardy. I mean, we've done several harvests at this point, and it's still thriving. One of the things to keep in mind on this plant is that it comes from the brassica family. So what that means is that it's related to cabbages, broccolis, and so forth. The kale grows as a main stalk. And you'll see that each individual leaf that sticks out from the main stalk, that's what we're looking to harvest. Now, the growth pattern on this plant starts from the bottom up, which means that the new growth will always come from the very top. The harvesting part, we can start from the bottom and work our way up. But obviously, if you're looking for the more tender shoots or the more tender plants, that's where it's going to be more towards the top of the plant. The harvesting process is very straightforward. All you're going to do is you're going to grab each individual leaf, you're going to snap it down and then snap it back up. Chances are you just snap it down and it's pretty done. So what you're looking for, again, we're looking for nice leaves, whatever you're interested in. Size could also really matter. It's up to you. You could choose to go with the bigger leaves or the smaller leaves. But again, the key to the tender leaves are going to be towards the top. So you want to start by just reaching down, snapping it, and then you're going to go ahead and use these. These are just simple twist ties. Normally you can get these larger size. This is what we got from a gardening store. We had to cut them in half because they were fairly large. But again, you can customize these depending on how big of a bunch you want to harvest. Once you have one grab leaf, just go ahead and start working on the other ones. Reach down, snap it. And then as you're harvesting these, what you're looking for too is presentation. Obviously, if you're going to be serving this in a dinner or if you're actually selling this as produce for your business, make sure that it doesn't have any major insects or holes in it. Again, we know as farmers that it's still fully edible, even if it's got holes in it. But for presentation-wise, that could be something to kind of consider. You're going to continue the process throughout the entire plant. And you don't have to harvest all from one individual plant. You can harvest the size you want from each individual plant as you're walking down the row. And that really kind of makes a good harvesting technique because you're letting all these plants still develop down the road. You're not completely stripping one at a time. And you're looking for anywhere between, I would say, 8 to 12 leaves for a good bunch. That's kind of like standard what you're going to see at a grocery store. Once you have enough of these leaves together, you just put this twist tie together, you tie it up, and then just as a caution, just tap it a little bit in case there's any insects on it. Now, most of this stuff is going to get washed, so we're not too worried about any insects or unwanted little passengers here. But again, just as a standard practice, you just want to tap it through and you should be good. So today we're going to be harvesting, as I mentioned earlier, some Asian greens. This is what we're looking at here. This has been growing for roughly about a month. This is one of those types of crops that you can just continually harvest throughout the season. Because when we harvest this, we're not actually killing the plant. We're going to harvest it by grabbing at least most of the top of the plant. We're going to leave roughly about 4 inches off the ground. And again, the reason for that is that when we harvest this, we can come back in roughly about a week or two, and the harvest is going to be looking, again, beautiful. These plants generate fairly fast. So as we're looking to get this started, one of the things we want to talk about is the tools you're going to need. Here we're looking at what's called the harvest knife. Now, you don't necessarily have to use this particular tool. You want something that's got a sharp edge. The reason that you want a nice sharp edge is you want a nice clean cut as you're taking these leaves from the ground. And the way we harvest this is pretty straightforward. Again, we're just going to reach in with your hand, and you want to cut, again, roughly about 4 inches off the ground. You're going to get a nice little bunch. And then what you want to do at this point is you want to just kind of take out any yellow leaves, anything that does not belong there, whether it's a weed or even an insect. So clean it up a little bit, because it's a lot easier to clean this now than when you're washing this. Once you feel comfortable with what you just took, all you got to do is just, I would recommend just tap it a little bit in case there's any insects that might be kind of carried in here. And then you could put this into either a bucket or you could put this into a crate. In this case, we're putting this into a bucket because we're going to wash it later. And once you get done, you should want to go ahead and continue the process. You don't necessarily have to worry like the kale where we talked about picking leaves from one plant and moving on to the next. This one, you could just start basically working by sections. As I mentioned, as long as you're not completely cutting this from the ground, you're going to be able to come back in about a week or two and you're going to have regrowth again, nice and lush. All right, folks, the last crop we're going to be looking at today is going to be our carrots. So we're going to show you how to harvest these. Now, the thing to kind of keep in mind when you're working with carrots is that carrots are a root crop. They're very different than what we've worked on or talked about earlier. Those were more leafy crops. So this being a root crop, we're gonna have to dig it out. Carrots are fairly long, so that means they're gonna go deep into the ground. So the only way to really kind of get them out in a fairly safe way is to dig them out using tools like this. This is gonna be a small pitchfork. You don't necessarily have to use it. You could always use a shovel if you wish. But the key to keep in mind is that when you're digging these out, you wanna make sure that you're pushing this directly into the ground, straight down. Don't come at an angle. If you come at an angle, chances are you're probably gonna skewer a carrot, and there goes your crop. So, pretty straightforward. Just stab the fork into the ground, put all your weight into it. If you're heavy, that's pretty easy. And then all you gotta do is just push down. While you're doing this, it's to loosen the soil. You wanna make sure that it's nice and loose. That way the carrot just pops out. So let me show you. Once you got that loose, reach down, and then there you go. You got a nice fresh carrot. Look at your carrots, look at your crop. You wanna inspect it. Does it have any brown leaves, any yellow leaves, anything that looks ugly? Are there any kind of either maybe bites? Maybe you got a little gopher that kind of went to town at this. So clean it up a little bit. If it looks good, go ahead and put it away. And you can harvest this in a crate. Obviously, you want to do this if you want to keep the nice long stems intact. You don't have to. You could also put them in a bucket if you wish. But that's pretty straightforward. Next thing you do is just keep doing this to the entire carrot. Again, at this point, they're ready to go. Harvest your carrots. You're going to have a good harvest and yummy carrots.